So I'm Mridula Bharadwaj. I'm leading the technology roadmap and policy group at the ISA. I warmly welcome you all to the technical session on infrastructure and last mile connectivity under the future mobility theme. And especially, I would like to thank the organizers for giving us an opportunity to moderate the session. Now, to give the context, I'll just take a couple of minutes. Um, as we know, the transport, it contributes around 14 to 15% of the global GHG emission. And oil consumption in the transport sector is showing reduction in the last few years. So this means that there is expanding use of cleaner options like electricity and biofuels, etc. Now, to talk about the electric vehicles, they are no longer confined to the pilot programs. They are being deployed at scale across public, private transport systems, shared mobility, and freight operations. So as we know, the dynamic, in the previous session, they talked a lot about it. Dynamic pricing and data-driven optimization can provide efficient resource allocation. Also, the multimodal transportation, we'll be talking a bit about this. And smart mobility solutions can also cater to the last mile connectivity. Um, so just to quickly tell you, you all know that EV account for around 8% of the new vehicle registration last year and led by Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, and Karnataka. So electric two-wheelers around 57% share, I think, and then around 35% share for the three-wheelers. Policy efforts continue to support charging accessibility with about 29,000 chargers set up till last year. And then to know about the schemes or initiatives by the government, we have PM E-Drive scheme, PLI scheme for automobile and auto component industry. We have PM Gati Shakti National Master Plan, NMP. Bharatmala Pariyojana are some of the many initiatives of the Indian government to support the mobility sector. So just towards the closure of my remarks, I just wanted to touch a little bit on the solar charged electric mobility because that's the program we are doing at International Solar Alliance. I would request the IT console person to kindly put, I have just three slides. Great. So if you look at this is the basically what we do at ISA in terms of solar charged e-mobility. We handle through the two verticals. One is the solar powered EV and battery charging stations, which you see here. And the second is vehicle integrated photovoltaic technology. Now, as I mentioned, we have 125 member countries. And out of that, we have 64 least developed countries and small island developing states. So for them, we analyzed in detail. If you go to the next slide. Yeah, so we analyzed the opportunities in the SEV sector, which is solar charged EV sector. We went through the vehicle segment, region, and countries, as I mentioned, 64 of them. Then we compiled the best practices, mapping the factors impacting the accelerated solar EV adoption, identification of critical screening parameters. That was very important for us to develop a solar EV ecosystem readiness assessment framework, which we have published and it's on our website. And then what we did was we prioritized using 4 buckets in terms of the level of readiness of our countries. So this is the framework. We had 3 drivers. One was technology landscape assessment, number 1, business landscape evaluation, and policy and regulatory analysis. So this is our contribution to, in the solar charged EV, which is really, if you see, then solar and electric mobility integration enables greater penetration of both the clean technology. So that was a driving thing to us. Now, so we see a lot of opportunities and challenges coexist, and we have a very knowledgeable panel today. They bring expertise across infrastructure, technology, business models, and last mile solutions. Just for your information, we will follow the format provided by the organizers, where we will have the presentation by each speaker, and then we will have the Q&A later on offline after the session gets over in case anybody's interested to speak to the speaker. But that's going to be after the session. Thank you, and we will begin the session now. So, first speaker is Mr. Deep Suryakant Shah, Senior Consultant, ICF India. Welcome, Deep. He works at the intersection of clean transport and climate change across India, South Asia, and United States. He supports governments and private sector clients on electric mobility, charging infrastructure, clean freight, carbon markets, and emission modeling, amongst few other areas. Over to you, Deep. Thank you.
Good afternoon to everyone. It's 12 noon, so I'm the first one to wish that today. Thank you for being here. My topic today is to discuss megawatt charging. As the word says, it literally means chargers with the capacity of 1 megawatt, but there's more to it. And we would like to understand where and how India can focus on megawatt charging, largely for electric buses and electric trucks. The agenda for today is broadly across 5 sort of walkthroughs. First, we are trying to understand what is megawatt charging. We try to lay out the need for MCS in India. There are some global case studies because this is a fairly evolving concept, not just in India, but globally. But there are a few studies we can learn from. We try to explore how solar integrated with MCS is critical considering India's drive towards cleaner energy, and sort of how do we take the next step in order to implement MCS in India. So to start with, I'll maybe first explain what is a megawatt charger and how is it different from something that is a more formal term called MCS. So megawatt charger is basically a charger capable of 1 megawatt or 1000 kilowatt of charging capacity. It is generally used for heavy duty vehicles, mainly electric trucks and electric buses. The purpose for megawatt is generally to do en route charging, which is basically like currently in diesel and petrol, the vehicle stops, completes the refueling in about 10-15 minutes and continues. Charging is not that time sensitive, especially for larger battery packs which come in electric buses and electric trucks. So megawatt charging effectively helps reduce the time from a 2-hour or a 3-hour charging into a 30 to 40 minute charging time. There is something different called a megawatt charging system, which is the short form for which is MCS, which is a formal standard developed by the Charging Interface Initiative. And it is now incorporated formally as the IEC 63379, which is again an internationally recognized standard. The MCS standard includes specifications for all chargers up to 3.75 megawatt. And there are some additional sort of chemical, physical, and electrical specifications that are part of the MCS. Moving on the next step to lay out why sort of India needs to start focusing on MCS, we first have to start with where India is right now. Broadly, there are about 29 to 30,000 public EV chargers that is registered by the government of India. This number is from August 2025. The actual number is slightly higher than this, but this is the more officially recorded number. If you look at the number of EVs in India, the ratio comes to somewhere around 1 charger per 200 vehicles. The way to compare India to some of these more developed economies in terms of EV charging infrastructure is the ratio in China is 1 charger per 7 vehicles. The ratio in US is 1 charger per 20 vehicles. The purpose here is to show that India is really at a very nascent stage in its journey towards electrification. And this is, of course, parallel to our electric vehicle adoption journey. As Mridula mentioned, the EV penetration last year was about 8%, and the years before was much lower. So we are, again, very single digit in our EV penetration, and so is our case for advancing EV charging infrastructure. Moving a step further, I think the electrification journey is even more nascent for electric trucks. There has been significant adoption for electric buses, but trucks is fairly new. And for the very reason, if we look at the current numbers in trucks, it's fairly low. It's about less than 1,000 electric trucks in India. But the estimated number by 2030, which is now only 4 years away, is more than 130,000 trucks. And by some other sort of projection, this estimated number crosses about 4 million trucks in 2050. So the number of electric trucks we are speaking is much higher. Electric buses are a little further away. We just saw news, I think, about last week of Bangalore procuring about 1,750 electric buses. This is 1/3 of their fleet, and the rest 2/3 will be transitioned in the next 4 or 5 years. This is just one example, but almost all Indian cities are moving in that direction. If we translate all of these e-buses and e-truck forecast numbers into electric charging numbers, the sort of statistic, the direction we need to focus is very clear. We are currently focusing on increasing the number of charging, but we equally have to focus on looking at the capacity of these chargers and whether they will be suitable to meet the larger battery packs that will be adopted as electric buses and electric truck numbers continue to improve. These are sort of 5 fundamental points on why we need to look at high power charging for heavy vehicles. The first is fairly simple, and it continues from the last slide. Very fundamentally speaking, the number of electric buses and electric trucks will increase, which means the number of higher battery packs will increase, which means the number of higher capacity EV chargers must increase. Next, all of these vehicles, especially the intercity buses and the trucks, are expected to run on sort of highway corridors. There was a lot of discussion around sort of electrifying India's highways in the previous session, the one before this. And this goes along the same lines that today, the chargers that are generally used for highway electrification range from 60 to 150 kilowatts. There have been charger deployments as high as 350 kilowatts, but the number is fairly slow. The other thing is, today's trucks and bus battery sizes are 300 kilowatt up to 350 kilowatt hours, but that number is expected to increase. And this is a trend that has been observed in the more developed economies, and it is only natural. We will observe that as long haul trucks and intercity buses come in. We are expecting battery packs to go as high as 600 kilowatt hours. There's something called weight penalty, which is also sort of a physical law. There is a penalty for every kilogram we add to a truck or a bus, which means putting in sort of infinitely higher battery packs is not a feasible thing to do from a physical OEM and vehicle development perspective, which means our battery packs can increase, but to an extent. Along with that, we have to make sure the energy density and the charging replenishing times have to increase parallelly. And financially, operationally, the current logistics sector is about 90% informal operators, owners with fleets of 2 to 15 to 20 trucks, which means we have to convince a lot of people. And for that to happen, we need to make sure that the transition to electric buses is financially suitable and not just from a climate perspective. And for that to happen, we need to make sure that their uptime increases. And again, for that to happen, the charging time has to go down. So we have thus far laid out electric buses and electric trucks are increasing. They are going as high as 4 million trucks and a higher number for electric buses by 2050. And naturally, all of these will require a lot of heavy charging infrastructure to be deployed. The chart here I'll maybe quickly show the chart on the right. On the x-axis is the charging power. On the y-axis is the time to recharge for a heavy-duty EV. Under a 150 kilowatt charging infrastructure, it takes more than 250 minutes, so about 3 to 4 hours of time. If the charger is around 400 kilowatt hours, the time taken reduces drastically to about 75 minutes. But again, it's not comparable to a diesel truck, which is what we are trying to aim for. With a 1 megawatt charger, the charging time reduces to about 30 minutes, which again now starts to make comparison with a diesel truck which is currently the norm. Um, uh, Currently, in very raw terms, there isn't a landscape for MCS in India. A private sector company, VNT, recently launched the first 1 megawatt charger in Gurgaon, the picture of which is here. The Indian EV charging norms do not account for high capacity chargers. Most of our chargers deployed are under 350 kilowatt. There have been discussions on ground plans to deploy chargers as high as 500 to 600 kilowatts, but 1 megawatt is still quite further away. There have been concept studies, pilots, all of that is happening, but again, nothing commercial to the scale of 1 megawatt charger currently in India. Right. Before we go on to what needs to happen in India, let's maybe look at what's happening around the world, because that gives us a lot of insight. I've taken 2 case studies. One is from Europe. This is a pilot by ABB. They have a stall here, and Scania. This is part of a larger project called high performance charging for long haul trucking. And it's important to understand the objective. The objective is to not deploy megawatt chargers. The objective is to make sure that trucks can be charged within 45 minutes for 4.5 hours of subsequent driving. Why I sort of emphasize on this is the language here is trying to cater to the logistics, the fleet operators, who really the focus for them is, does it help me make for better operations and make for better financial decisions? And that is what they're trying to do. They're trying to deploy about 8 MCS charging points across 5 different sites. Of course, more details of these can be available online, but sort of the key point for us is to understand how they are drafting the narrative around why MCS is required and what is it aimed to do. The next example is from China. I think we are likely seeing more BYD cars on Indian roads today. BYD is they have launched a program called Megawatt Flash Charging. Under this, they are aiming to deploy 15,000 megawatt chargers with 2 local partners who are manufacturing giants. And the objective for them, again, is to do about 30-minute charging for 400-kilometer range. They are trying to position this and sort of program this in a way that the grid infrastructure upgradation requirements are minimized. I'm trying to give a practical operationalization here, which is something that they have been pitching. That consider there is a legacy charging station with say 20 parking spots with 60 kilowatt chargers. This same station can be retrofitted, and 4 of the 20 charging stations can be converted into 1 megawatt charging station, and that is about it. There are no additional upgradations required on the back end in the infrastructure, no additional transformer requirements, and the sort of the modeling consideration here clearly shows that with a faster charger, the CPO is sort of empowered to have higher tariffs for the faster charging service, and it makes financial sense for them. I have a quick slide on why, coming back to India, solar becomes critical when we talk about MCS, because 1 megawatt is a lot of has a lot of heavy implication on our grid. There are 4 quick boxes here, and I'll try to go through them one by one. On the first one, there are some studies which show that with a charger sort of coordinated with PV and BESS, the peak demand can go down by 30 to 60%. The second box here shows that if you are able to, especially on highways, if you are able to sort of have PV and BESS, you are able to reduce the levelized cost of energy by anywhere between 15 to 40%. The third box here gives an example of what are the tariffs for utility scale solar versus commercial HT high tension power. The solar is about 2 to 3 rupees, and the high tension power is 6 to 9 rupees, which means even a partial replacement with solar represents a heavy financial incentive. And finally, if we are able to add sort of PV and BESS, we are also able to reduce the additional transformer and grid upgradation requirements that is required. My final slide sort of lays out 4 pillars for India to start looking at and adopting MCS. Number one is we need to start looking at our priority corridors. I think the government recently launched a report on the 10 fast charging net zero highways. Some of these sites along these corridors can be the priority sites for MCS. Next, I think our sort of PLIs, the incentive schemes, have to start taking into account MCS as one of the opportunities to share some funding. Next, I think from the grid perspective, instead of being reactive, for the grid companies, it has to start being a sort of a proactive approach. And a lot more technical details for this was also shared earlier. I think the work done by ISA also recommends some of these sort of recommendations on looking at grid, because eventually charging is in the business of power and not in the business of transport. And finally, we sort of we need to start publishing some of these data sets, which include sort of battery performance, which includes tariff rates, which includes emission intensities, to start building more confidence in the validation and the confidence of not just these technologies, but its operations and commercial aspects as well. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to introduce Mr. Joseph Beski, AGM, Engineers India Limited. Joseph will be speaking on cost optimization model for shared e-mobility in India. He's currently serving as AGM at Engineers India Limited, experienced in procurement, supply chain management, and FIDIC contract administration for large-scale projects. Over to you, Joseph.
A very warm good morning to everyone. So mine is on cost optimization model for shared e-mobility in India. This is a kind of study which was done by myself along with Abhishek Verma. We both work with Engineers India Limited. Engineers India Limited, as we know, it's formerly called as EAL. It's a Navratna company under the aegis of Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, primarily and traditionally working into the refinery and the petrochemical sector. Of course, actually it has expanded its horizons nowadays into the renewable energy like green hydrogen, nuclear, so on and so forth. A brief background on the cost optimization model. See, as we all know, this Indian transportation is facing a dramatic change nowadays because of the environmental aspects, technological advances, and of course the urban, transportation related issues. EV lies at the heart core of this Indian transportation model. We all know this shared mobility, it includes ride-hailing, fleet-based app services, and of course the carpooling, which we believe that would, result in reducing the congestion as well as the pollution. Yet, despite these kind of, sustainable potential prospects of the EV fleets, there are a lot of tremendous financial as well as the operational challenges that the industry is facing. These are some of the pain points which we have listed. So one such is the initial capex investment for the, including the purchase of the vehicle or setting up of the charging and depot facilities. Apart from that, the low utilization during the off-peaking hours. Of course, it's common even with the internal combustion models. So what do the decision makers or the policy makers need to have? So where does these investment or the expenses actually get into? Into the capex or the opex or the automation, where it is. We will get into the depth study. And what are the policy levers that we actually need to get a kind of a jack in this optimization philosophy? Will these EV fleets will be able to meet up or cope up with the internal combustion engine energy optimization models? This is a kind of a brief approach model. It's a mixed model design, which consists of three, different steps. It started with a qualitative survey with the experts and the fleet operators to understand what are the infrastructural contacts or the operational contacts. So that laid the basis for, making a kind of a quantified survey. This survey was taken roughly around with 150 respondents of urban residents and overall and during the transit hubs and other things. It's to, analyze the empirical, behavioral, as well as the travel parameters. So based on this qualitative and the quantitative study, we designed the TCM model, which is the summation of all this CapEx, OpEx, technology cost, regulatory, with the deduction of the incentives. The CapEx, we refer it to the vehicle cost, as well as the cost that is required for building the charging setup. And OPEX is the normal recurring cost, which may be a driver-related expenses or a maintenance or energy, and even including the insurance. The technology cost is about the fleet management automation system or the telematics, which we actually regulate in operating the EV vehicles. And the regulatory is the normal local regulatory cost or the environment compliance oriented things. And the final is the incentive, that's a taxation subsidy which we get it from the governments. So this is a kind of just a graphical representation. Based on this formulae, we have made a kind of different scenarios which I will be explaining in the upcoming slides in the results and discussion session. And the different scenarios, there were actually a kind of a sensitive in the scenario analysis for under the varying scenario models. So once the scope has been defined, the collection of the inputs for the CapEx, OPEX technology cost, and the scenarios established, then sensitivity analysis, and resulting in the results. The main thing that's to be taken into concern is the pilot scale. There are some of the scenarios where we have clearly made a kind of a disclaimer. We need to have a pilot trend before establishing into the large scale modalities. And this is the results and discussion. So starting from here, we have taken a baseline scenario. The first 4 columns belongs to the OPEX, and the 5th one is of the CapEx, and the total cost per year is tabulator. The above one is for the AC setup, but nowadays the commercial fleet uses the DC setup charger. The below one has the added up value for the DC chargers. We have the range from 55 to 125 kilowatt. It's moving beyond that, 200, and people, as the earlier presentation we have seen, there are innovations happening with the megawatt chargers. And this is the scenario comparison model, what we have shown. We have taken 3 main different scenario apart from the baseline. One is the high utilization case and low tariff, and the third one is the driverless mode. So within the high utilization, their sensitivity analysis were done for different ranges like plus 10%, 20, 30, and the 20% was stable, which seems to be a more comprehensive one. And next is the low tariff. That's this tariff, as we see when you get into the Energy Commission, portals and the models, where you could see different varying charging tariffs across the states. Roughly, we have taken the baseline value as 40 kilowatt per hour. And when we reduce it with 8, 9, or 6, the cost reduction happens. And the optimized value seems to be at the 7 kilowatt, which has been plotted over here. And the last model or the scenario that we have taken into consideration is the driverless. Of course, driverless seems to be a more hypothetical one, but the driverless option had 2 different sensitivity cases. One is the pure driverless option, and the other is a semi-autonomous mode that I would be explaining in the next slide. And when we get into the total cost per annum, then we have derived the cost per kilometer as well as the cost per passenger kilometer. Here, the utilization factor we have taken roughly as 1.5, as it's a shared EV modality. And the right side column shows you the payback period. The rough estimate of 6 years has been considered as a benchmark for the baseline scenario. From that, we have taken a proportional calculation to derive for the rest of the scenarios. And the best one we could see in the high utilization cases. And coming to the emissions, those emissions we have, the primary data is the grid emission factor from where the electricity is being obtained. Of course, it depends on the vehicle consumption factor as well as the occupancy rate. The formula includes those values. We couldn't find any major variation among the different scenarios. Of course, it's a bit lower in case of the high utilization. And this is a cluster bar chart, which basically, it's a kind of a depiction of the earlier tabulated data. And as you could see in the pure driverless scenario, the driver-oriented expenses are clearly eliminated, and the cost seems to be very much down in the last one. And what actually moves the needle? What is the result that we are actually inferring? So in the first case, that's a driver elimination, which accounts for roughly 38% cost reduction. Even if it doesn't go with the hypothetical driver elimination, Even for a normal semi-autonomous fleet, we could even match up with a 20% reduction as per the optimization study that we have actually done. And coming to the second, the utilization factor, that's basically using the engines, I mean the EV machines over a long distance apart from the normal consumption. So for the plus 20% seems to be an optimal value where we could find out 18% lower, lower cost reduction with a reduction of their payback period roughly by 1.1 years from the 6 years duration. And the third one is the tariff reduction. For the tariff reduction from the 10 kilowatt to 7 kilowatt, as we see it's only a 5% saving. As a normal layman style, we would have expected to have a greater reduction in this tariff-oriented economics, but it's not so as per the quantified study. And infrastructure and the subsidies, we don't focus much because the results show it's a kind of a fixed cost, doesn't have much long-term variability and only a shorter-term concern. And this is the key takeaway. Though the driver option is there, we focus on the utilization parameter as the most dominant one, coming in comparison with the baseline cost of rupees 6.01 per passenger cost. And what are the policy recommendations? So there are different main policy recommendations. We are actually putting it up over here. The prominent one is the shifting of the incentives from the purchase subsidies to the operational efficiency. We all know earlier we used to have the FAME 2 scheme. Gradually it was actually stopped, though there are certain states which offer the purchase incentive for the initial procurement of the vehicle. And nowadays we have moved with the National Mobility Mission Plan and the PME Drive mechanism. The PME Drive mechanism mainly focuses on the kind of subsidy for installation of the infrastructure-oriented costs. And so apart from this initial subsidy investment, we want to focus or we insist on the subsidies for the operational efficiency, like the incentives for the high utilization fleets or kind of battery leasing model or subsidy oriented, which primarily focus on the operation perspective. Second is promoting the multi-operator charging hubs. The municipal bodies or even the urban bodies have to find out a way to integrate these EV oriented fleets or these models into the urban smart city plans. What we recommend here is there should be a kind of separate parking incentives for the EV operated fleets, and even for EV priority zones, what we see in the other foreign nations like US and Europe. And apart from that, the regulatory framework. See, I will take a minute on explaining the level of autonomy over here. As I said, the driverless automation. Before going with that, there are different 5 categories of levels of autonomy that exist in the current automobile industry. So the level 0 to 2, that's even the 2 is actually implemented already in India, which is nothing but the cruise control mechanism or the automatic parking helping assistance. What we see in the nowadays car, even in the Honda City of Varna, whatever. The level 3, what we see in the German companies like Mercedes S-Class, where the driver has to interfere now and then. And the level 4 is the kind of a pure automation. It's not a complete automation, it's a pure automation, but that's actually restricted to certain geofenced areas. To say, for example, in US, Waymo, along with Google and Baidu Alphabet, these companies have already came with an innovation. They have actually practically implemented the level 4 automation in the geofence zones. Geofence zones are nothing but actually preliminarily allotted areas, like from airport to hotels. These are the areas where the other people or the other EV combustion vehicles won't come into that. So there won't be any kind of hindrance to that, and the safety related issues are actually reduced to a minimum. And the level 5 is the pure automation, where there are even Bangalore-based companies working on the full automation, of course, not by 2030, but probably within a span of 10 years or 15 years, we could expect that to happen practically. So in the meantime, the recommendation would be to have a upskilling of the drivers in the case of the semi-automation or the monitoring facilities through the Skill India, or even to give a kind of an incentive to the operational oriented performance or the efficiency increase. And is this a cost problem? Certainly not. We feel it as an opportunity to take it. The charging infrastructure, where there is an initial investment, and I mean, it's a bigger capex oriented involvement, but that's the kind of an investment that's meant for 15 to 20 years, though there exists to have a intermediate software updation or the connector oriented issue, which we can replace at a minimal cost within a span of 5 to 6 years. And the digital fleet automation, which reduces the idle capacity. And the third one is the automation is the only thing which can actually unlock the internal combustion engine level economics as per the quantitative study that we have done. And what is the future scope? As I have already shown, the future scope is preliminarily on the autonomous EV fleets, which is the major cost reduction one. Apart from the two-wheeler and three-wheeler, this is primarily focusing on the four-wheeler aspect. We could actually, when we have entered, we have seen a lot of pink color autos, but that's actually being in the initial stage. This has to go into the rural and the urban areas where the EV hasn't gone into that much depth. It has to go everywhere. And final thing that's a kind of recommendation from our side is the policymakers or the bureaucrats have to take into concern the critical major policy implementations in the upcoming 5 to 6 years, so as to have a major EV adoption everywhere and to reduce the burden on the EV fleets, so as to get the India on a proper decarbonization strategy and the track. So that's it from my side. Jai Hind. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Mr. Mrityunjay Kumar, who is a project manager in Hypace Solutions Private Limited. He will be speaking on advancements in PEM fuel cell technology, high power density, and efficient thermal management for light mobility applications. And he's a scientist and project manager in the current role, specializing in PEM, high power density energy systems for mobility applications. And also he contributes to MNRE and IOCL supported national projects. Over to you, Mrityunjay.
Good afternoon to all. Nice to meet you all on this occasion of India Energy Week. I am Mrityunjay Kumar and I am project manager at Hypace Solutions. Our topic is development of high power density fuel cell systems for drone and light mobility application. So in this, I will talk about first about my team and Hypace Solutions. Afterwards, I will talk about the development of fuel cell, then further incorporation of fuel cell in different sections of the mobility, and that way I will proceed. So we have a cluster of team of youngsters who want to innovate. To innovate, and first they want to create and innovate the high power density fuel cells for energizing the this light mobility sector, where we can have drone, then two-wheelers, then three-wheelers. And in this mission, already we have developed the hydrogen fuel cell powered drone, and that is already demonstrated. So that I will show in the forthcoming slides. So first of all, I will talk about the market research. And we have done the market research for the three sections of the light mobility. First is drone, second one is two-wheelers, and third one is three-wheelers. When we see about the world scenario of the this drone technology, we find that at present there is 60 billion market share of the drone technology across the world, and which is expected to become about 110 or even more billion USD by 2030. When we see these two-wheelers, then that is now about 130 billions USD, and which is expected to be about 190 billions USD by 2030. And similarly, when we see three-wheelers has with share of 13 billion USD, and which is expected to become about 19 billion USD by 2030. So when we see the Indian market, we find that the drone technology only has 3% of the total drone technology across the world. And when we see two-wheelers, it has share of about 30% and even more. And for three-wheelers, we have more than 50% share. But when we come to the hydrogen-based technology in drones and two-wheelers and three-wheelers, then till now across the world, the total market is only $0.5 billion. And that is expected that by 2030, it can increase more than $6 to $7 billion. So when we want to see this scenario, we also wanted to compare that how hydrogen is going to change the future technology. And in that, we first try to compare the battery-driven drone and hydrogen-powered drone. Since as we know that battery is a technology which needs charging, and it's take longer time to get charged, and it has lesser endurance, as we see whenever these drones are operated, that can go even for medium and high weight condition, it can go for maximum 20 to 30 minutes. But when we operate hydrogen powered drones, in that circumstances, the refueling time will be very lesser, like 3 to 5 minutes. Then the endurance time, the people have already tested that it can be increased to 15 hours also. So when we see this power density also is more for the hydrogen. So when we compare, hydrogen-based drones can work better than the battery-powered drones. Further, we wanted to compare this IC engine-powered vehicles, light-weight vehicles, and when we saw, when IC engine-based battery-powered lightweight vehicles and hydrogen-powered lightweight vehicles. When we see, then we find that when IC engine-powered vehicles have many advantages, great advantages they have. But there is one greater disadvantage, that is emission, and afterwards there is one disadvantage is it requires more maintenance. Whereas this battery has it is comparatively not that efficient. But when we see that how hydrogen-powered lightweight vehicles are working, then we find that it caters all the properties of IC engine without taking its emission property, and it has also low maintenance. So we see there is a huge potential of hydrogen-powered vehicles in the future, and we see there is a great opportunity, and for this gap, we are always striving to develop the technology. When we did the market research, we found some companies across the world, and we compared our design, our Hypace scooter, and we found that it has more even we are developing our payload is 150 kg, our range is 160 kilometer, and it can have a speed of 50 to 60 kilometer per hour, and we are incorporating 1 kilowatt fuel cell stack in that. So when we compare with the other products across the world, we find that our product is also of international standard. And similarly, when we see the drones, we have already got our endurance is 120 minutes, more than 120 minutes. We have multi-rotor system that is also incorporated in many drones, and it can have maximum takeoff weight, even 25 kg, and even more than that we have tested. And we are going to incorporate 2.5 kilowatt already with 1 kilowatt in hybrid mode we have tested, as I will show in the upcoming slides. So that is also whatever we have developed as having the international standards. Now we see our Hypace fuel cell system. This is our we have intentionally developed it, and we have used PEM technology because of the higher energy density. Then it is a air-cooled design. Because of that, it will be lighter in weight. No any additional accessories will be required for the closed cathode system. And it is made up of lightweight materials like graphite. And so we have tried to incorporate this technology. And afterwards, we have found these properties like its a specific weight, power density is 600 watt per kg. And this current density we have achieved is 0.66 amps per centimeter square, which is also a very good standard of the power density. And the stack efficiency we have received is more than 50%. And the temperature gradient across the this stack, that is we have maintained less than 3 degrees Celsius. And the BOP parts, whatever we have incorporated for the operation of the fuel cell, that is less than 10%. It can be used like 1 kilowatt already developed. That can be used for 2-wheelers, 3-wheelers, drone, and many other mobility applications for lightweight mobility applications. And it is already for the pre-order book condition. We have already we are already going for the manufacturing of this 1 kilowatt. Now I talk about 2.5 kilowatt, which we are doing the simulation for it, and we have done simulation for it, and we have found that its simulation gives the result that it is going to even better perform than our 1 kilowatt, and it will have more than 700 watt per kg specific power density. And its current density will be even, it shows that it will go about 0.7 amps per centimeter square. So like it will be available by 2027 January, and its application are also similar, but it will have more the 2-wheelers and 3-wheelers can have more weight which can be driven. So in the process of development of fuel cell, we have done some analysis by using the COMSOL, and we see first we did this polarization curve by using our this trademark CDR flow technology, and that technology we have used, and we have found that it is 0.7 amps per centimeter square current density we are achieving. And we did single cell analysis, then multiple cell analysis, and that is the design of 1 kilowatt. And now our upcoming for our upcoming product, that is the last one, the design for 2.5 kilowatt. So this is the incremental way we have achieved this development of 1 kilowatt. First we made one single cell, then we made the short stack, then we made the 1 kilowatt stack. And we can see in the real scenario we tested, and we found the already performance we have achieved. And by incorporating our in-house built controller, and by using the hydrogen cylinder, everything we have tested in the real operating scenario. So our colleague is doing the testing of 1 kilowatt, that is also shown here. So this is the fuel cell data. As you see, we have already receiving, we have tested it for longer hours, and we can easily receive 1 kilowatt, even we are receiving more than 1 kilowatt power. And for the drone application, we have tested for the powertrain by using this our 1 kilowatt stack. So our offering, as you say, already we have tested on our drone in the hybrid mode, and it has 28 kg maximum takeoff load, and we have incorporated 4.8 liter cylinder that has 90 minutes endurance, and this is having 3 times more power than the battery driven performance than the battery driven drone. So this is the demonstration we did in the Indian Oil. this is a hydrogen powered drone developed by us. And now this is our upcoming product. So by using 1 kilowatt, we are going to power two-wheelers that will have maximum payload of 150 kg. Then it will have a speed of 50 to 60 kilometer per hour and range about 160 kilometer. And similarly, three-wheelers that will have 2.5 kilowatt fuel cell, and it will have maximum payload 700 kgs and 50 kilometer per hour speed and 60 kilometers range. Now we see what is our current TRL level. So we have already tested our product in the real scenario. So we are at TRL level 6, and we have already more than 5 patents. More than 5 patents. 5 patents are shown here, and 1, 2 are already in pipeline. So that will be also done soon only. So we have already achieved TRL 6. So now I talk about collaboration. We are really thankful to Indian Oil, R&D and MNRE for supporting us in development, and so they supported us by funding. And we also invite people from OEMs of two-wheelers, three-wheelers, and drones, and any other mobility application for the army, this military purposes. They are invited to collaborate with us. We also invite this strategic partners and investors from they can also collaborate, and even the people who want to contribute in this technology with us, they are also invited. So thank you. First of all, I would like to thank India Energy Week for providing me this opportunity, and thank you all for your attention. Thanks.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we move to the next speaker, Mr. Suman Raj, Chief Manager, Vigilance, Hindustan Petroleum Corporation Limited. And he will be speaking on connected intelligence, redefining urban transport and resilience. Suman is a seasoned energy sector professional with over 15 years of experience in downstream oil and gas operations. And at HPCL, he leads preventive vigilance initiatives across Gujarat, leveraging digital strategy, process re-engineering, and data-driven approaches. So over to you, Suman. Looking forward to your talk.
So, Honorable Chair, my esteemed panelist, ED, HPCL, Ram sir, and audience. See, last 3-4 days we were here, right? What is the biggest problem we found in terms of commutation, right? To come to this place and going out this place. So what we are missing, the last mile connectivity. So through this discussion, I wanted to take you through what is the major bottlenecks and barriers for the last mile connectivity. So if you see, we will cover up with respect to the objective introduction methodology, and these are the some of the touch points we wanted to cover. Come to the most important part of this India where we are living currently, 2026. We are sitting on the highest age group with respect to the most youngest population, and that too working population in India. At the same time, we have generated the highest level of electricity in this country. Second, coming to that, we have created more number of urban centers, more and more smart city and smart buildings, smart optimization tools are coming to the India. And second, to come in that automotive industry, there is a huge exponential growth to pan India. So these are some of the key touch points, I would say, the India's growth story, which will give us that why we are in a different cusp of innovation and sustainability. So coming to that, some of the key questions, what come to your mind, I just read with respect to convenience, what mobility data we have and how we can use those informed policy intervention. This is one of the most important things. How can we implement intelligent traffic management system, ISM, with respect to monitor and enhance the vehicle flow in India? What does the data signal about, and where, how to protect those data, and how we can optimize and promote mass public transportation to decrease reliance on personal vehicles. So basically, we have to see that This how informed policies requires a panoramic view rather than a very narrow perspective. So basically, coming to the agile, automated, and resilient system, we have to say that, yeah, sharing is sharing, on-demand availability with respect to entire vehicle system, car sharing, bike sharing, flexibility from the ownership. The future of the mobility will be autonomous, shared, and it has to be electric. And the same time, the future of energy will be electric, decentralized, and digital. Coming to the automated, I would say the connectivity. In-car content, driving assistance, augment driving behavior. This is another one of the most important aspect, how to leverage that driver behavior, where he's sleeping, where he's dowsing, what is the distraction points, those drivers. Mobility as a service. This is important aspect we wanted to cover down the line. Intelligent transport system. This is another important aspect. And most important, connectivity. The smart mobility solutions with respect to competition, to operation, to connected. So what is the business is all about? The most important is equality and equity, efficiency, safety, green and sustainable. Coming to the equity, that it has to be accessible to all the public across the genders, be it women, girls, improve access to the market at earliest possible, and the low cost. Efficiency, which leads to that my co-panelists talked about the drone, the EV and all. It has to be efficient. It has to be at the optimum cost. Safety, it has to reduce the safety aspect with respect to fatality and injury. At the same time, reduction of social cost. It is also very much important to deal with the entire end-to-end connected mobility solutions. And most important, green and sustainable solutions. Coming to that, how to minimize or optimize the emissions level regions to the climate disasters. So these are the most four vital pillars with respect to the entire end-to-end mobility solutions. So these four aspects is nothing but a culmination of sustainability mobility index. We wanted to throw a light on this, that yeah, this is the entire essence for the each city, whatever come across the India smart city, our towns and all. First, it has to be universal access. Second, efficiency. Third is safety, and fourth is green mobility. The culmination of this entire policy methods has to learn and understand that each city has their own problem. This particular venue has their own problem. We have to see how those problems has to address in the last mile connectivity, how our cars has to place, how the small shuttle bus has to place, how many number of bus has to be placed. This is very much important. At the same time, the market data shows there is a 40 billion investment with respect to the CAGR in coming down the line. There's a connected mobility solutions and decarbonization goals, whatever our Honorable Prime Minister has told. So basically, we have to move the connected vehicles. Vehicle has to talk to each other. Connected vehicles and connected to everything. That is the energy to everything. What are the key challenges in terms of urban mobility coming to that? So most important that there's the average waiting time. This is a startling data when I was going through the research. 154 hours in a year we are waiting on a traffic jam. Suppose one ambulance is standing in a traffic jam, what happened to those patients, right? So this is one of the important things, that how has to optimize those traffic jams in terms of this. This is one of the challenge. Climate change and pollution is another challenge which we have we have seen. The road safety is another one of the important aspect, and urbanization. The rapid urbanization without the basic infra across those things in terms of road, in terms of charging stations, in terms of hydrogen points or LNG stations. So these mobility strategies has to be integrated with host of other things, paraphernalias. It has to be efficient, it has to be productive and environment friendly. Coming to that 7C mobility solutions, this is very close to an essence of entire mobility solutions across the board, not even India, across the board, not even specific to anything. First, it has to be common to reach every common Indian. It has to be convenient to every common Indian, has to be congestion free, has to be charged in terms of, suppose we are going from Goa to Bangalore, how many charging stations are there? How many CNG points are there? Suppose I'm coming out from a hotel room to this place, what are the bottlenecks at each and every touch points? Those charging points. Are we using the clean things and 13 edge. The solution has to be 13 edge. At the same time, this is very much important that it has to be the deeper impact, that this technology has to be a common man thing which will leverage day in, day out. And the entire profound and convenience is the essence of our mobility solutions and our framework. So coming to that, what is the analysis and findings with respect to mobility ecosystem? It has to be proper customer engagement. The data, whatever you're using with respect to the bike sharing or car sharing, Ola, Uber, other things, the data has to be culminated to across the board, across the mobility system. It has to be, there is a security and monitoring system for each and every touch point, be it metro train, be it buses. Why not we use, though India has started, but it has to be percolated across the single card for bus, for metro, for train, everything. At the same time, it has to be maintenance, low cost maintenance and optimized solutions. The operations, the fleet and route planning is very much important. Those days, across the board, we are using the VTS, the vehicle tracking system, the ADAS system, the other things which will track the driver and the vehicle behavior. At the same time, we have to focus on the vehicle design and manufacturing in terms of battery, in terms of material, in terms of how to reduce the overall operating and adoption cost. So we have to see what is the total cost of adopting one new tech on the new vehicle in terms of from the manufacture, from the R&D to the road. At the same time, infrastructure design, how to place the EV charging machine, which outlet, which touch points where the convenience to the customer is there. At the same time, traffic management and regulation. Why cannot we control the entire traffic management to a single central command control center? This is the essence of entire mobility ecosystem. And this is, yes, the time is not far with respect to this. Teams are working, people are working, only the right policy and earnest with respect to this mobility ecosystem. Coming to that mobility transformation. So we wanted to pursue here the cases. It has to be connected, autonomous, CASES, connected, autonomous, shared mobility, electrified and sustainable mobility. These solutions will help us how to talk to each vehicle, each touch point, each type of different modus, I would say the modal myths of transportation. So possible system level AI interventions with respect to first autonomous driving network, passenger AI convenience. This is another aspect where personal assistant with respect to integration. Okay, now it's 1 o'clock, I am ready to move. Is such shuttle is ready? Is my connecting bus is ready? Is my car is ready? Similarly, capacity manager in real time. Entire thing has to manage. Today, the 4,000 people are coming in this venue. How many shuttles are required? This type of data will give the essence to the convenience to each commoners. So there are different mobility services which we can emphasize in down the line coming years. By 2030, India may be one of the flag bearer, I would say the clarion call in terms of car sharing as a car as a service. Yes, car sharing, car subscription, rental, high range, similarly digital services, smart parking. Some places are there. It has to be percolated, and scalability is the most important for anything. Micro mobility, bike sharing, and the most important, air mobility. Yes, air mobility is also important. Like tomorrow we have to work on air model for the Uber model like of air transport. So these smarter mobility will give us the emergent solution. It has to save time. At the same time, it will give the convenience to the commoner. Yeah. So this is the framework which we have designed along with my co-author with respect to that where the mobile is underserved. And still some places the mobile is underserved. So what are the solutions for those things? Similarly, where the mobility expenditure is more, where the time and money is not at all important. So well-located communities, the high-end cities, the currently high-end access of those things. At the same time, the third quadrant where the low is the standard underserved and well-connected and urban mobility. These four quadrants will give the edge over other cities that how we have to improve upon with respect to smart mobility is a systematic reform and not just an IT upgrade. this is important with respect to the drivers for electric vehicle adoption. With respect to the regulations, yeah, FAME 1, FAME 2 are there, and governments are giving the incentives also. But that is not only concerned with respect to incentives. We have to see the sufficient infrastructure with respect to all those mobility solutions, hydrogen car, LNG, CNG, EV charging points, how to manage those things so that we can give a proper solution, end-to-end solution to this. Government of India given one of the important mandate that each retail outlet has minimum 2 different type of energy sources, be it CNG and petrol diesel or be it EV and petrol diesel. So this type of regulations is very much required. Technology, overall EV access. Because see, suppose we are traveling, my vehicle is given 150 kilometer, we are traveling 300, where's the next charging point? At the same time, infrastructure and customer demand. How to manage those demands which will create the economical solutions for them. So some most important implementation with respect to this data-driven transportation system. First, appointing a city data officer where the data is with the city officer. This is a recommendation and this is a forward-looking statement through different studies and internal research. Data champions and data coordinators who will manage the city level data. Different city level authorities are there. Similarly, appoint a transport data champion who will manage those data at what time, at what junction, particular peak load is there, particular peak traffic is there, how to manage those traffic, communicate the purpose and value of those data. How many times I am traveling through air, what is my frequency of traveling, what is the frequency of traveling from this particular road. So these type of data points will help us to manage the intelligent traffic management system. Ensure appropriate safeguards for data privacy. This is also very much important in terms of how to make the participatory framework for those transportation data and develop and maintain city level data, at least for intra-sharing those models, so that at a particular time, there should not be any rush with respect to entire open data platform we have to provide, so that at least the data transfer from each platform has to be seamless. So there are 4 scenarios of AI in mobility solutions. I start with the last one, first one with respect to the golden age, where the developed country is already doing those things, where the consumer has trust to develop those managed data. There's another different statements with respect to the minimum AI impact. This entire thing, the entire connectivity has been solved and would be solved with respect to the right framework with respect to the AI ML, where the how to manage those transportation from house to office, office to business, business to office, an entire thing, entire value chain. There should be a developer ecosystem, and we have to see the right solution with respect to which solution fit at which place. See, this is one of the example I just plotted with respect to this venue, that how to go from this venue to the outside main road. So see, if city center is there, see, this is a city center, what are the ways and means has to place in this particular venue, to manage those things. 2 minutes. Yeah. So these are different value system with respect to a point A to point B to point C. What is my weightage? At what time my peak public are there? So coming to the last but not the least, the most important, the connected green mobility solutions. We have to see promote a segment-specific model where the multi-fuel with respect to the EV, light-duty vehicles, hybrid as a bridge, biofuel for existing petrol, diesel vehicles, at the same time green hydrogen for long-haul vehicles. The entire discussion is coming to 5 different points. First, the data, the operations, safety, ethics, and liability. Who ultimately own those data? Suppose tomorrow someone will say, if I put the autonomous driving system, right? Ultimately, if suppose something happens, the owners with whom? So we have to see that these regulations had to yes to clarity, because ultimately the equitable mobility, access and accessibility is the most important and dynamic thing in this world. So with this, thank you to all the beautiful audience and the DMG and the ma'am. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to introduce Mr. Vinodkumar Hiremath, Manager FEV India Private Limited. Vinod will be speaking on air-cooled battery cooling approach for Indian electric two-wheelers. And he is a CFD and thermal engineering specialist with experience in battery electric vehicle thermal management, and expertise includes advanced 3D CFD simulations, detailed battery pack modeling, amongst other things. Over to you, Vinod.
Good afternoon, everyone. Uh, Today I'm going to discuss about the major topic, especially all are known about the air-cooled engine. Especially our two-wheeler battery vehicles are air-cooled engines. So we have done a recent investigation regarding using especially internal cooled material so that it can handle our Indian conditions. So that's why we came up with a design air-cooled battery cooling approach. Agenda will be go like what are EV sales in India, especially EV vehicle, electric vehicles, what is there, and we'll also some discuss about fire incidents happened in battery vehicles and technologies and whatever the new battery pack design, and we have done a CFD model for that, and for the CFD study model validation done. So one will go with the natural air cooling and forced cooling. See, when you discuss with the vehicle category wise, when you check the registration wise, overall automotive registration, overall two wheelers is the major one. It's sold about 73% of registration happened in India. When it comes to the right side, electric vehicle is there for the year of 25. So here also major of the electric vehicles only sold in India when compared to other vehicles. So when you also check a trend of EV sales, we have compared from year from 23, 24 and 25. We observed that trend is going higher only from the year 23 to 24 and 25. So it can be accounted that 78% of the overall automobile sales increased in EV sector, especially compared to the last 2 years. And even also selling wise also accounted higher compared to the last year. And when you compare, especially for two wheelers, the growth is almost 19.1% to the last year. So our major concentration happened only on the two wheeler vehicles. What are the major problems we are facing, especially in e-scooter, is fire incidents. It is happening because of the both with the customer, even with some of the manufacturer also. But most of the customers, what happen, they will keep for the longer charge, and even some of the overcharging will happening. That might cause the issue, and also BTMS failure is happening most of the times due to higher charging. It might be because of the higher ambient condition also, and it also due to some short circuiting also. So these are some incident we noticed in the newspapers. As of now, especially for the two wheelers, we are using a battery thermal management, especially for in cooling perspective. We are using most of the two wheelers are natural air cooling, like passive air cooling, and some vehicles are still forced air cooling. So why you are using this natural air cooling is especially it is simple in design, and it is lightweight and also cost effective, and it is also more suitable for India condition. Uh, Recently, new technologies are going, especially liquid cooling. Liquid indirect cooling they are started using, but as of now, not so much vehicles are there. But especially when you come to direct immersion cooling, like we will use the dip the cells into the direct coolant, so that heat transfer rate will increases. Also, the convection will happen more in the direct coolant. So this is a recent technology, advanced one. So most of the supply batteries are coming in the manufacturing unit now. And next focusing will be phase change material. This also one of the emerging technology. So what will happen whenever the temperature get heated up, the material goes from the solid liquid phase to solid phase, and when the temperature comes down, it again come to solid phase. So that both convection and conduction will happen in the battery vehicles. So our main agenda, like aim of the analysis here is to investigate our air-based thermal model, especially at the higher operating conditions. Especially our ambient condition usually India reaches around 45 degrees Celsius. So we are mainly focusing on that one, and we are carried out a simulation with developing our design. This is our the design of the battery pack. The battery pack we have mounted. you can say our battery pack we have mounted on the floorboard side, and this is the protective frame we have maintained. And when it comes to internal structure, we are almost it has a 195 cylindrical cells, 21700 cylindrical cells are there, and it is using almost each volt is 3.7 volt and 5 ampere of battery. Overall battery capacity is 3.6 kilowatt hour, and out of which 48 volt is the battery capacity is 75 Ah, and we incorporated the copper current carrier cells and nickel bus bars in order to make the current flow. And this entire battery pack is enclosed with a enclosure made up of aluminum and top cover. And this is the we can visualize for the front view and the left view. Especially the external dimensions, we took it from the battery, especially electric vehicles. So these are exact dimensions as of now we are fitting into it. So before going for the simulation, we need to do the proper analysis for the, especially using air domain. So what we have done, we have considered these are protective frame. You can see the left and right side, protective frames are there. And this top one is the footboard placement. We have make a constraint, especially it is practically it is using in chassis of the battery vehicles. So we have made a structural frame, a model to with respect to realistic two-wheelers integration. This is we have done for natural cooling, and force cooling we have done with elbow duct structure, so that we can force the air with a fan here, so that it can have active cooling. Then cooling will get effective one. So I will explain this force cooling in next coming slides. And in coming with air domain consideration, air domain you consider almost 5 times over the battery pack. So it came around 400 mm to the front and rear, and 300 mm left and right, and 200 mm bottom. So top side we didn't consider because that is the foot frame. So it is not able to have a Beyonce effect that much. So we have maintained as it is. These are the steady state simulation we have carried out for natural cooling and force cooling. And heat generation we have considered as a 0.2 C charging rate, 5.57 watt, and for force cooling 0.35 C it can hold. And for the especially for the force cooling we have used a 70 CFM battery, 70 CMF fan in order to take the simulations. When you come to simulation environment, as I said earlier, we have done it for 45 degrees Celsius ambient temperature in order to challenge the worst case condition of India. And we have done a mesh independent study because when you are doing CFD, we need to do mesh independent study. What exactly we get a result. So we have done a refinement of the mesh independent study. So it almost came around 8.65 million cells we have used. It's varying from 1 to 3.5 size. And we have carried out a validation case using experimental data. We have done transient simulation for using a segregated solid energy in star system software. So that time when we have done a simulation, our simulation result exactly matches with our experimental data. So that our model is valid, so we can go with, I do it checking with our design. Before going that one, we have done a cell arrangement study. Like we have arranged a cell in aligned as well as in staggered cell arrangements. So in aligned, it happened like 1 mm in, we have maintained the space gap as a 1 mm in the width axis and almost 3 mm in the length axis. And in staggered, it is almost around 2 mm maintained radially. When it comes result and discussion, so first we had a natural cooling. This is a comparison with aligned model and staggered model. So you can see in the temperature counter, especially ranging from 50 to 55. In aligned model, at the end row is getting cooled rather than staggered model. This is mainly because of the diagonal section has a higher internal cell gap. So it is the most of the convection heat is happening from the intra cell to the enclosure side. So that's why same thing you can observe in the plot also. The cell Tmax is lesser for aligned cells and higher for the staggered cells. But we need to focus more on the model T average because cell Tmax is usually the hotspot region. T average is almost 53 degrees Celsius, and for the staggered one it is 54 degrees Celsius. Okay. This one is the velocity distribution. It is mainly focusing on the when you see at the aligned cell, in between the cell we have a larger gap. It is almost 13 mm is there. So we can see convection effect here, and see the buoyancy effect. The most of the flow is happening in between the cells. So when it is staggered, there is very less gap. So we are not able to see that much of convection here. Most of heat happening through conduction itself. After doing this one, we have done a study on heat carrier plates. We have used one plate model for both aligned and staggered plates, one plate model, two plate model. These are internal plates, especially in order to conduct the heat. We have made a design comparison with all the plates. As you see, after increasing the internal plates, the temperature goes on reducing. This can we see that if internal plate is increased, so that our temperature will get reduced, but we need to make a trade-off between the less cell temperature as well as the weight of the pack. So you can see in the delta T also, delta T is getting reduced for the aligned cell. So aligned cell is getting good results than the staggered model. We have done the almost like temperature distribution wise. In temperature distribution also, in the top row, as a internal cell, like internal plates are increasing, the temperature goes on reducing. You can see sudden drop at especially at the wake region of this internal material side. And same thing happened with staggered also, but aligned is giving a good results. Also, when it is, we have checked with the enclosure and the distribution plates, internal plates. What happened here, like enclosure at the end, enclosure had act like a heat sink in our model. So the temperature has to be transferred from the middle to the end of the enclosure. So it goes on reducing at the end of the enclosure side. So we have done a forced air cooling. In what happened in forced air cooling, we have provided a fan, but we are not simulated in our CFD model now. But the airflow, we are conceptualized. Airflow is going towards the top of the battery pack, even side of battery pack. We have done a two model here. One model is a single air duct model. That one, like top side and side of the side, air should go. And the another one is elbow-shaped split model. So the drawback of this model is we are not able to cool at the sides of the battery pack. You can see in the here, sides of the battery pack is not getting cooled, and even at the whenever the velocity is coming, it is going wasting at the top side of the battery pack. So what happened? We have made a split battery pack, split design of the air duct. In this one, the most of the flow is going on the top. Even in the top of the bottom of the battery pack also getting cooled. Even we can see the flow is happening at the sides of the battery pack as well. This one, like we have discussed about the enclosure also here. What happened in enclosure? In the elbow shaped duct, you can see the temperature is ranging from 46 to 49, but you can see the hotspots here. But in the elbow split model, you can see like it is getting cooled rather than the single air duct model. Same with temperature distribution also. Both are like same, but when you say internal plate, that time in the elbow split model, it is the temperature getting reducing compared to our single air duct model. So when it comes to conclusion, we found that almost like aligned model is giving a good results than the staggered model, and also as a addition of heat carrier plates going on, the temperature getting reducing. So we need to make a trade-off between the both, like decreasing temperature and increasing the heat carrier plates. So in our model, the fourth model using the 4 heat carrier plates giving good results for us. And we also done a study. Whatever study done is done for the higher 45 degrees Celsius. But we also done a study for the ambient temperature around 25 degrees Celsius. That time we were able to reach around 0.4 C for the natural convection and 0.6 C charging for the forced convection. So future scope you are trying on the internal cell spacing, also optimization of the air duct so that we can make it a robust for the fast charging. And also recently we are working on the immersion cooling as well as a phase change material cooling to increase the speed charging of the battery pack. Thank you.
Thanks, Vinod. This was really interesting in terms of the fire episodes that we have. So the battery pack design with respect to thermal management is a great initiative. And ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the closure of this session. We covered aspects across a broad spectrum of issues related to infrastructure and last mile connectivity, which we summarize at the end of each talk for your convenience. And on behalf of the organizers, I would like to express deep appreciation for our expert speakers, for updating us with all the recent work that they have done. And thank you, dear audience, for your time and taking interest in attending this. Thanks again to the IEO organizers, session organizers, for putting this great session together. Thank you. We close the session now. Can we have a picture as requested by the organizer?